Here.
Before we get started on the class, I need to say something to help take care of the class. Last week, right at 8:30, about 5 people bolted out the door, and they just took all the energy, and their consciousness collapsed, and just brought the class to a very abrupt end, and that's really that's not okay. It was all right when we were just reading the book. It was easy to wrap up a minute or two after 8:30, and there was no sharing going on or anything like that. But now that this has turned into a workshop, we have new material every week, and we have like 20 people here every week or so. And I want everyone who wants to share and work on the information on what we're doing to have an opportunity to do so. So while it's my hope that we'll wrap up typically by 8:30 and then spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes on the new material, I have no guarantee that that's going to happen, and we need to be courteous to all the people that are here. So I'm really asking that you make arrangements so that you can be here until the class ends. And the other side of that, which is nothing I don't need to talk about tonight because everybody's here on time, but on the other side of that is we need to be on time. The light goes on at 7 and the sign goes out, and you can come as early as 7, but we need to be here at 7:15. The reason we meditate for 15 minutes is so that we can all get lifted out of the hypnosis into a unified consciousness. And the reason that's critical for this kind of a class is that if we're not lifted out of the hypnosis, everything that's said here is bullshit. And if we are lifted out of the hypnosis into the higher consciousness, everything that's said here is obvious. Okay? And so we need to be in the right place so that we can hear what's being said and take advantage of it. So we really need to respect the times of the class and be on time and stay for the whole class. And on the other hand, I understand that there's freeways and there's traffic problems and there's car problems and things happen. And I also understand that sometimes there's babysitting and people will have to sneak out early. And if you do, not as a habit, but occasionally discover that you're late, sneak in and use one of the chairs close to the door. And if you have to leave early, take one of the chairs close to the door for the class and sneak out. Okay? Just to make as little ripple as possible, so that we work hard building the consciousness in here every night, and we need to operate in that consciousness or we're wasting our time. And that's enough about that. So we're talking about our relationships and whether they're serving us, and where they're hindering us, and where we're clinging to them, and where we aren't. And the name of the work is really called Cut Your Losses and Move On. And the purpose is to recognize when it is that we're clinging to old ideas about how things ought to be, and trying to change them. It's like our fantasy scripts where we go back over and over again to the same people trying to get different results and trying to have a better response or get something that's not there. And that effort that we're spending to do that is tying us to our sense of personal self. First of all, it's frustrating us, which is I'm frustrated, I should be treated better, I need this from there, I need to do this, I need to win from this situation, I need to change it, I is what all those are about. And the wise thing to do would be to recognize those situations and say, oh, okay, that's never going to change, and cut your losses, drop your expectations, and move on. And I want to point out especially that I'm not saying cut the relationship, necessarily. I'm saying cut your losses. Quit trying to win. Quit trying to get something out of the relationship. If you're trying to get something out of the relationship, you're already inhuman, but so I know some of you have spent some time making these lists and put things together. And let's share. Who'd like to work on their list first, or share one thing or something? Let's share first. Yeah.
Okay. This was a very interesting exercise because what came up was it wasn't necessarily that I needed to cut the losses. Is I had to look at my expectation of the relationship, and a lot of it was in my relationship to the people I sponsor. Mm-hmm. You know, how much I give, and I really had to look at that because that's an area that I have a tendency to just kind of sacrifice myself in. Mm-hmm. And I was telling Diane at the start of class, you know, I spent the afternoon with Lori and Diane and Mary Ann yesterday, and, you know, I just, through conversation, I observed that in some of the relationships, it wasn't necessarily I needed to cut my losses, I needed to give more, which I found that was interesting. In reference to, like, for example, well, you know, they've been given the tools and they're choosing not to pick them up. So, you know, why am I wasting my time type thing? Mm-hmm. And what I realized was, you know, through conversation yesterday, that if, you know, I just stand in my truth, and if I give more and come from a more compassionate place, that would have the more desired result that I want versus the harshness. And what was interesting too was to know that that behavior is my resistance behaviors of avoiding, withdrawing, you know, that type of thing. So yeah, it was a good exercise. Mm-hmm.
I just had to, I loved what Christy said about, I really saw that the relationships I cling to that are not benefiting me in any way are due to my resistance behavior. And in those relationships, because why ever I'm keeping it going, because I don't want my script or whatever that is, I always end up in this being disappointed or being resentful. And I kind of got it clear a couple weeks ago in a relationship. I teach private art lessons, and for a long time, a couple people would call like 5 minutes before the class, go, you know, I just can't really make it tonight. And I would just keep saying, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. You know, because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But what was really happening is that I'll never be valued. Script was getting read over and over and over again. And my kid, I was not feeling taken care of because that's just an old behavior for me. Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's okay. And so finally, and it was really hard for me, I had to tell one person, I don't think you should do this anymore. I don't think you're really into this at all. And I did it like from a place of just really being truthful. And it was interesting because she heard it that way. There was no, we didn't, and it was really scary for me. Mm-hmm. It's scary for me to tell the truth in those, I'm afraid, not only probably of having my script read, but of everybody not being okay, which is a huge thing for me, and which is a script.
Which is a script, yes. Uh-huh.
But again, I just saw that when I don't take care of myself, I end up either disappointed or in terrible resentment. And I saw it was all me. Didn't have anything to do with the other person ever showing up or not. Because really, if I looked at it, I could care less. They're there or they're not there. But it was the expectations I have set upon it, what a relationship should look like, what if you make a commitment, all these concepts I have. So that was huge for me. I couldn't believe I was saying it because it was a big step forward in changing a relationship that was not working for me at all anymore.
Yeah, you were losing.
Over and over again.
Over and over again, sure, because you had expectations that they were going to value you or do whatever it is that you're seeing them as not doing. Whether or not it has any reality is immaterial. The fact is that they were reading your script and you were thinking you need to get them to stop reading your script, that this would end sometime.
So I want to ask you a question though about that, Lee, because this has got to be a concept, but I want to, let's say somebody signs up for a class with me, and they say they're going to show up, and then they don't. Do I have a concept about if you sign up for a class and you say you're going to show up, you should? Is that a concept?
Yeah. It doesn't make it not functional in the human world if you have people on a waiting list and stuff like that.
Right.
That happened in one of my classes, and I sent the person an email, and they said that after missing 2 classes, they said that they'd given it some thought and decided it wasn't the time for them to do it. And I sent back a short email saying you should have given that thought, 2 months ago before you signed up, and as a result of your decision, somebody's not able to take the class that wanted to. And just let it sit there, let them understand the consequences of their own actions, and I have no idea what the response to that is or will be or how they took it or anything, but I had no hesitancy about saying that. And it certainly is not going to make no difference to me whether there were 31 or 32 people in the class. It had nothing to do with me.
But you were just coming from your truth?
Yeah, it's inappropriate. I've gone to great lengths on the website to encourage people to understand what it is that they're committing to when they sign up.
Okay.
The words are all there, and it's very carefully there because there is waiting lists.
So maybe I haven't been very clear about that also, in wanting to make it all okay for everybody. Maybe I haven't stated clearly, if you do this, this is what it looks like.
You need to have a policy.
Okay.
And then you need to enforce the policy. That's just simple business.
Okay.
And it's also taking care of the class,
As a group.
And the things we have to do to take care of the consciousness of our class.
Okay. So it took multi-levels, really, all this stuff.
It was easy to be done.
Yeah. Okay, thank
The
you.
reason that worked so well was because you do it from spiritual adults.
Right.
And that's always the point. See, if you're operating from spiritual adults, then it works. And if you're the cut your losses is about, when I say cut your losses, I'm saying if you're in a situation where you're losing, okay? But if you're in a situation where you're losing, you're not in spiritual adults.
Okay.
Spiritual adults don't lose. But they may take care of situations, and they may take care of you.
Okay.
Same for what Christy was talking about. If she's out there and kid trying to make things happen, she's going to burn herself out. But if she's being the light she is and letting it shine, it's effortless. Although time-consuming and hard work, but it's effortless.
Got it.
Being in your God script is very time-consuming and hard work, but it doesn't require any effort.
Right.
It just happens, and you need to see where you're coming from.
Okay.
And if you're locked into a human relationship that's not serving you or anyone, you need to recognize it.
Thank you.
Who else? Mike, did you have a hand?
I wasn't sure, was it just with respect to cutting your losses with people or situations?
Situations, anywhere.
Okay, then I have
Any place that you keep going back trying to win.
Okay, I had a presentation today, and it was last Friday, and I canceled it for today, and so it wasn't about finishing, it was just getting far enough. But normally I would work till like 3 in the morning, really late on Sunday night, but I didn't. I only worked 2 hours yesterday. But instead of going into the meeting thinking I'm not done, I wanted to change that attitude with myself. So I really, last night, I did a lot of work on myself going into it. Everything's going to be perfect, and I am perfect, and this is perfect. And so it's the first time that and as a result of that, it went perfect. Instead of going in there thinking that it's not done, it's incomplete, and I changed that around. And as a result, they said it was excellent. But it's different. It's so clear to me that it wasn't excellent because it was excellent. The work started the night before, and as a result, just everything. I was just so happy today. But then again, I said, why am I happy? Because I got my validation. So I had to look at that too. But the validation I really want is the validation that I give myself. And so really, I took care of myself yesterday, and as a result, everything kind of flowed. And it's amazing. Because so many times I would go into these situations, I would stay up, I'd be flustered, I'd go in there, and you create the consciousness of the meeting. So, very interesting.
Sure. Yeah, we're all at a point now where we can choose, if we are in a habit of pausing for a second, we can choose what consciousness we operate from. And it must reflect. I mean, that axiom, that principle that the mirror reflects, that's true. I mean, if you switch into God consciousness, you've got to see harmony. I mean, it's got to reflect. So we've all done enough work, and we're all clear enough now that we can start taking control of our experience in that sense, rather than trying to take control of it mentally through affirmations or stuff like that. The fact is that we can just shift into God consciousness and know who we are and who they are, and start experiencing harmony. If we're not screwing around and all this stuff that we've been playing with for the last 6 weeks. That's why we're looking at all this stuff, because this is the stuff that keeps yanking us back out. Yeah.
In the situation that Mike described, I mean, I'm a little confused because my first thought is that if I'm telling myself that it's more of an affirmation, or that I'm trying, obviously, if I'm telling, for me anyway, if I'm telling myself that and telling myself that, it's because somewhere I don't believe it. And I was under the impression that it's what's really in there that outpictures, not what, not what I'm trying, to affirm against or something like that.
Depends on whether you're affirming it or using it as a tool to lift yourself into a higher consciousness where you experience that it's true.
Okay, I see the difference.
I think Joel talks about that.
Sure.
About treatment. I see it as a tool to lift my consciousness.
You can do that. I mean, clearly, if you need to get lifted, you're in human consciousness. And so anything you say is going to sound like an affirmation or look like an affirmation, but you can sit there and know the truth at yourself. And, remember the truth and go in and go in and go in and go in and lift yourself. And you can actually lift yourself. And for that, that's not what we mean by affirmation. That's what Joel means by knowing the truth.
And if you're lifted, it really doesn't matter what the outcome is, it's still going to be perfect. It has nothing to do with what your previous expectations were.
If you're lifted, you can expect harmony. And if you're lifted, it doesn't matter how you got there.
All right.
Wouldn't you liken it to kid work? Because that's how I feel like, that's kind of where I feel like I've been at in my kid work for a long time, is just I'm pouring truth on my kid, which is the one that's worried, the one that thinks I have to do more and more and more. So I'm offering up reassurance that, harmony is.
Yeah. That's one side of it. If you have a kid who's concerned about the situation, which was what Mike was discussing, then certainly you want to do a reassurance to your kid, and part of the way that the kid work includes replacing the kid's lies with truth, certainly. The other case is, though, that you may not have kid emotion going on, and still find yourself just, tuned into human consciousness. And then you can remember a truth and use that to lift yourself out of human consciousness into a higher consciousness. So sometimes it could be kid work and sometimes not. the difference is, if you have a kid who's in emotion, who's getting scared, then you have to do kid work. That's why we have kid work. If the emotion is coming up, if there's fear and emotion coming up, then it's kid work. And if it's just universal human consciousness, if it's just universal parent or hypnotism or whatever you want to call it, if you're just catch yourself, reacting to a situation, if you listen to the news too much, you're going to need to lift yourself before you go out there, So there's both sides of it. Both are necessary. You need to learn which is which.
And it would feel the same as if there's a kid who's in emotion, or you start to feel a pull toward your resistance behavior. Like, I like the way Michael...
That's kind of what I felt.
Suddenly you feel this temptation to get involved in your resistance behavior, and that's an opportunity to, pour truth.
That's a kid coming up.
Coming up.
But see, this helps because then I knew that it was a pull toward my resistance behavior. So I could stop it at the imposition.
And there's a lot of parts here, and you got to see them all. But once you know all, but there's really only 3 methods. It's a matter of learning how to recognize what's going on, and then you apply the methods. And you really can get through all this stuff. All of us here have real practical experience in doing this work successfully. There's just no reason that we shouldn't all be wandering around expecting harmony and being light. Yes.
I have a question about what you just said, and you've mentioned a few times about if you're getting lifted, you're going to, and I've heard that truth before, you're getting lifted, you're going to experience outer harmony. And I was a little confused. I just finished reading the autobiography of Goldsmith, and towards the end, right before he died, he wrote this letter, or maybe the transition, wrote a letter about how, it was basically that in his experience, that outer harmony, the outer picture of his life was not experiencing harmony, and that confused me about how, and maybe it was just a temporary thing, but reading that and reading how just towards the end, the place he was in, I was just confused how a man of his, level of consciousness wasn't experiencing the outer harmony.
Well, I don't recall the particular passage you're referring to. If you look at his work in his life, there was amazing works that were going on. And there may have been enough humans that he didn't consider that to be harmony, but when he was doing the works he was doing, healing 135 people a day, a lot of us would call that an expression of harmony.
I guess it's what he said in my personal life hasn't experienced.
Yeah. God doesn't much care about what you think your personal life should look like.
Mm-hmm.
God's interested in doing what God's interested in doing as you. And doesn't much care what your personal life looks like. And, Joel, for example, was unable to heal his first wife and lost her.
Yeah.
Things like that happen. And he was human. If you're wearing a body, you're going to be in human consciousness 5% of the time. We're going to be in the body 80% of the time. Joel's going to be in the body 5% of the time, or 10% of the time. He never claimed to have more than 85 or 90% continuously in the consciousness.
So his God script might have been just exactly what he did, to heal, and not necessarily reflected in other parts of his life.
His God script was to heal and to bring the truth that Jesus taught to the world. And he did that by, traveling around the world, 6 continents, 12 times in his life, and he did that. He brought his message personally to 70,000 students every month. That many people taking the Infinite Way letters. An amazing delivery. The only reason we're having this class tonight is because Joel broke the human consciousness hypnotized. He brought so much truth into human consciousness that we can have this kind of a class. He lifted everybody up to where this is possible. I attribute centering prayer to Joel and all those movements. I attribute all the meditative movements in the Western civilization to Joel's introduction to meditation, and on and on and on. So, and he died of a heart attack, And he had another heart attack in Africa 2 or 3 years earlier because he didn't take care of his body. And apparently, in spite of his he was able to make mongoloid babies was normal, and he was able to grow arms and legs on with thalidomide babies back then and stuff like that. And he had a heart attack twice. So his consciousness is there, and he didn't take care of his body. Is what Barbara said. You know, he enjoyed eating. He didn't take care of his body.
And you hear that a lot within high conscious people. I mean, dying from either cancer, Parkinson's disease, something that their body still, I guess, needs to go through in this lifetime, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that is. But in Joel's case, it's special because he's such a healer. And you would expect him to, he was such a healer on the next, he was such a healer and a proponent of daily protective work and stuff like that, that you would think if anybody could do it, he could do it. And he could all twice. Yeah, and the other factor is that he had an amazing energy and was able to do all that travel and all that work, and he died at 76 or something like that. Yeah, you had some?
Well, I need a list of people I'm in relationship with, such as mother, father, brother, sister, and my script is I will always be alone. So I made one side where I was fulfilled in the relationships, and another side where I was unfulfilled. And I put Leon there. And so anyhow, where I was unfulfilled was basically I'm not accepting the person, not part of the person the way they are. Like I think they should be different in this situation, and whatever. And by the time I got to you, there was only like 10 people on the list. And it was like, you know, it was really clear by the time, because you were the last one, and it was just like, oh, okay, it's just, you know, this is how these people are, and I think they should be different. So now I can't have a relationship because they're not acting the way I think. I know it's just straight, you know, crap. But anyhow, so I had this one girl where she fulfilled me like this much and unfulfilled me this much. But I just told her, you know what, we can't even talk anymore because it's just it's just, you know, it's just a relationship that was stupid. And I won't go into the details of it, but I had all these expectations. And so I just got honest with where I'm at, and I just made like a, what's it called, where they don't have this choice or that choice?
Ultimatum.
That's right, ultimatum. I said, here it is. And I didn't expect, you know, the wedding ring, but I also, you know, I expected it was, the thing that I'm saying is, where I got confused is like, not reading someone's abandonment script when I'm having that conversation. I called you about this. And, you know, we said goodbye, and it was a very civil conversation. I got really honest in it. And I said, you know, no more joking around, this and that and the other. And then the last word was bye from me and bye from her, which was healthy, I think. And I've never told a girl before, you know, I can't do this anymore. I've never, in, you know, all these years. So it's just really interesting in my relationships. Now, the problem that I've run against now in being fulfilled and unfulfilled is a lot of it, like I'm prejudiced. I cannot stand, you know, people from Hermosa. I can't stand people not from Hermosa. I can't stand black people, Mexicans. I mean, I have all this disgusting stuff going on. And there will be someone that will attract that I can have these conversations with. So I said, I don't want to have those conversations anymore because, you know, I'm a drug addict from the crack houses, and that's that conversation. And I don't want to have it anymore. So some people have been removed just from me getting to a higher level of, that's sick for my spirit. And so I was listening to these three hanging out, and I talked with Brooks the other day at volleyball, and I was just like, you know, I just talked, when I evaluated my relationships, the fulfilling relationships are the ones that bring me joy. And I don't have to look at the unfulfilled part. I just have to look at, is it joy and is there expectation?
See, that's the whole point. I mean, so you got, I mean, most lists are going to be partly fulfilled and partly unfulfilled. And that's fine. And look at it. And see clearly, yeah, I'm really getting a lot of fulfillment here and I'm not getting any here. And if you look at it and say, I'm not getting any fulfillment here, and stop trying, then it's all joy, because you're not over here working, you see. If the point is to see it clearly. And the point is not to throw out a relationship because it's partially unfulfilled or something like that. I mean, if it's 80% fulfilled, unfulfilled, and 20% fulfilled, great. Quit chasing the unfulfilled side, go somewhere else for that, and enjoy the part that's fulfilled. You know, that's the exercise. To see it clearly, and having seen it clearly, decide whether you know, your time is well spent or not.
And I just want to end with, there's some relationships where there was no fulfillment, but I'm still like calling, like, hey, what's up? I know you're never going to call me, and we're never going to hook up again, but you know, I just thought I'd, you know, get my script read. Can you do it today? So that one, hopefully I can sever that sad for my consciousness.
That's a great place to cut your losses if you want. Anyway, call somebody else. Who else?
I just want to kind of jump backwards again, and it's kind of based on what Cynthia said and Mike said and I said earlier. Fulfillment or a good out-picturing or whatever you want to call it, that's all, the definition of that is all coming from humanhood. So it doesn't matter what's going on, whether it's bad finances, bad relationships, or anything else, does not necessarily mean that we're in the wrong direction, or is that a clear indication that you're in the wrong direction? I don't mean bad relationships. I mean, obviously, if you're going after the 80% you can't get, but if what looks like bad relationships or what looks like bad finances or bad employment or anything else is not necessarily a out-picturing of do you understand what I'm asking, kind of, or saying?
It is necessarily not picturing of your consciousness.
Well, yes, it is, but it doesn't mean it's you're in error somewhere, and that's why you're.
No, it's a simple statement of what you're experiencing is a statement of where you're at.
Which may be exactly your God script at that point.
Which is what it is, and it's the best you can do, and it's whatever much God script as it may be. Your God script will feel good. If it's not feeling good, it's not God's script.
Okay.
But that doesn't matter, you know. There's no judgment about good or bad or slow or fast. The fact is, see where you are. You are where you are, you know, and that's where I am. And the reason we have, you know, it really works very nicely. It really works very perfect, because what I have is a mirror in front of me which shows me all my truths and all my errors, okay? All the joy and all the pain. And so I get a real good indication of where to work, you know? I mean, it really, the universe really is a spiritual gymnasium, and you really are constantly being presented. It's amazing how well it works. You're constantly being presented with all the information you need to grow spiritually in the most efficient manner possible. Unfortunately, most of us aren't wise enough, haven't grown sufficiently spiritually to see that truth. But it's, yeah, you get to see your successes and you get to see your failures right in front of your face. There's no judgment about it, it's just where you are. We'll talk about that more in another 20 minutes. A little bit. Yes?
This is really good, this exercise, and I had a lot to look at, you know. But the one that jumped out at me in particular was a relationship that I have with my sister. And so the relationship that I had with her growing up always was, she was one of the people that I was closest to. And so we had an experience almost a year ago where my interpretation was that by her behavior she was not accepting Liam, the acceptance of Liam. And so despite reaching out to her, she has not reciprocated, and it seems like she doesn't want to communicate right now. And I had a lot of, it's been hard for me to resolve that. And a lot of pain with that, and admittedly a lot of resentment and a lot of judgment about her and her behavior. And Dulcie really helped me by saying, do you realize that her not accepting Liam is exactly the amount that you're not accepting her? Which was really illuminating. But to be honest with you, what that made me feel like was like if I were more spiritual, it wouldn't bother me. That's what I heard, you know what I mean? Until I applied, can I accept that I'm not going to win? It's different. Because it's kind of the same concept, but when I heard it that way, can I accept that I'm not going to win? Because what I really want to win with her, and what I really want is for her to accept Liam. And that would look like winning to me. And then I could accept her. But so I really liked that because it wasn't about was I doing enough. It was about could I see that I had an expectation that just was false. Yeah. So that was huge.
That's a real deep idea in there, the winning. I mean, look at it with that word in mind. I think I told you before about my relationship with my mother. And all I wanted was for her to accept me the way I am. And of course, I wanted that and wanted that and wanted that. Now, when would be when she accepted me just the way I am? And of course, what I'm doing is not accepting her the way she is, right? And so there's a great fight, and I'm trying to win. And to not be just exactly who I am would be losing, right? I mean, to shave and trim my hair and stop wearing dirty dungarees and get off my motorcycle and put on a suit and go over there and make her happy would have been a lose, you know? It was all about winning. And I saw it one day perfectly clearly, and I, of course, did not shave or put on the suit or anything, but I just stopped wanting her to be different. And all the energy went out of there because, I no longer wanted her to be different, so I was just watching who she was, and it was fine, And so she wanted me to be different. Oh, okay, that's her. Nothing to do with me. So, winning is important in this.
That would be a resistance behavior, though, to shave and put on a suit, right?
I don't know what it would be.
Because I sponsor someone that, was told, why can't you be like your brother? So they dress like their brother, and then everyone laughed at them.
Yeah, that's
So
read.
That's kind of a resistance.
That sounds like a script read. Who else? Yeah.
Well, when we talked last week, we talked about looking at our biggest needle. And, I guess my biggest needle has always been my husband. And, and looking at that relationship, I mean, that's been my source of my most stagnant period in my life. And it's been that source of the most growth, which has just been happening this last year. And the stagnant period has taken the last 10 years, through a lot of pain. And what we did in our relationship, which will be 20 years this year, is we have focused on a short period of time that we were really happy and tried to go back and remember that, and instead of, continuing to grow together. We would, and I got a lot of resentment about that. I thought things should look the way they were supposed to look. And so last week when we were talking about this, I was calling Marianne saying, this is huge for me, because this is a lot of stuff that I've worked on this past year. And, I came into this group because it was Marianne suggesting that I go take the relationship class. And he didn't want to take it. And then I think for some reason we didn't have it, so I came into this group class. And what has changed for me completely is that taking responsibility for it, you know, the mirror and everything. And because of that, everything's changed in our house, you know. And here, you know, there is more harmony in our house, but also I've let him go. I mean, I've you know, to a certain extent, and it's still a work in progress. There's been, I don't need him anymore, and that was the big thing. Was that I needed him to do this and to, you know, to take care of his end of the bargain, which he wasn't doing, you know, all those things. And so what's happened is that I'm showing up here, and I'm showing up for my, you know, painting, and I'm showing up for, you know, those things that, my meditation, and all those things, but putting in my vocabulary, God's script, all, you know, spiritual adult, all these things, you know, has been this crash course in that thirst that we talked about before. And so we had a friend of ours come over for dinner on Saturday night, and he's an old friend, his best man in our wedding, he's known him forever, my husband grew up with him, and he just looked around and he was like, things have changed here. And he said, you know, things are good, and they're between the two, aren't they? And, you know, I looked at him, and one thing I wrote down was, you know, is that I don't know what things are going to look like, and I don't know if we're going to be together, you know, because I may, but the fear was cutting my losses and cutting that relationship.
You did cut your losses.
Yeah.
You're talking about how well this works.
Yeah.
You did cut your losses back then.
It's amazing. And it's just even in, you know, with the kids and everything, it's just, you know, just starting to do that. And what I wrote down for some reason was that our new relationship doesn't have to be based on you, you know, that it's here and right here.
Can't be based on the old one.
Yeah.
Gotta be on based on, because those people don't exist anymore. You have a relationship based on the old one.
And that's the loss. That's the cutting away, you know. Isn't it? I mean, that's the...
Well, I mean, the real cut into the loss was giving up on expecting him to be different. You could look at you can look at it, you know, your relationship needs to be new every day, but that's in the relationship we work about not having concepts. You know, you don't go into today having a concept that they're going to be like they were yesterday, even, let alone 10 years ago. That's concept work. But yeah, you cut your losses. You decided, you know, and instead of spending all your energy over there trying to make that work, you just spent your energy over here trying to make your own life work. And of course, that starts working.
And it's amazing. It feels like, to me, it feels like I'm just being turned inside out. And everything that I thought was working a certain way is always the opposite. It's like always the opposite.
Spiritual truth is always the opposite from material truth. New consciousness is always backwards. That's how we have to get lifted so we can do this work, so we can hear this stuff. Which all sounds so trivially obvious to us right now. Oh, sure, that's got to be. Nonsense. Human consciousness says, no, hang in there, you can win, you gotta win, you don't win, you die, lose, you die. Hang in there.
I have some glad you said that, because I was sitting here hearing everybody share about how, you know, they, or at least so far, how it was like an immediate, it seems like relief, you know, about the relationships that they wrote on the slips, and that really wasn't my experience. At first, I only really thought there was one or two, and then as I'm hearing everything here, I'm realizing there might be more than that, maybe situations or whatever. But I had more feeling, and maybe it's that ego, like you're describing, clinging to that, like, you know, the sense of, okay, well, if it's a loss, then what's the point of staying in it or being in, you know, like immediately that kind of, and a lot of some, I guess, I don't know, like feelings about it. That, you know, that the immediate reaction wasn't like a relief feeling. It was, you know, maybe that's the ego attachment or whatever, or not wanting to, you know, still wanting to win, I guess.
But it won't be an ego, it won't be a relaxing until you do cut your losses.
Right.
When you stop trying to win, then your energy comes free.
Right.
Until then, you know, If you're not doing that and it's a loss, then you're clinging and you're got scripted or something going on. Yeah, because chances are it's not willfully ignoring it. So you've got other work to do. But that's the point. Is that if you see that it's not changing, would be the way to say it. I mean, if you're in a relationship and you see that it's not changing, and you don't cut your losses, and again I don't say cut your relationship. Quit trying to win. Quit trying to get it to change. Work on yourself. If you're not doing that, then you're clinging somewhere and you still want to win. That's all there is. You want to win. I want it my way.
These are the principles that you taught me when I was raising my kids and they were teenagers, which are not the beautiful years, or they don't need to be, or they whatever. But I remember calling you when my son decided he was going to dye his hair blue, and he was going to school where I work, and so I was kind of into what will people think, and so of course I called Lee about everything, and he goes, "Why don't you just help him do it? And you're an artist, and you can make it a really nice color blue." And that shifted the whole relationship. Rather than us arguing and fighting and my ego getting in and wanting to win and make this teenager different.
For the next 6 years.
Yeah. We bonded over colored hair.
They had an hour of quality time.
Once every 3 months when he had to change the color. But it was really, that's a perfect example there, because what could have been a mess with my ego involved, oh my God, what will they think? He just moved right in and said, why don't you just cut your losses and make this a wonderful experience.
Can you imagine, I'm sure you didn't hear this happen, can you imagine he goes to school the next day and somebody says, "Hey, need hair," and he says, "Yeah, my mom did that."
But it was a perfect example of that.
And is that a win? Yeah, my mom did that for me. Yeah, sure.
So, that was
the concept.
I've been having that experience tons with Reese, my autistic child. I think I shared last week, I can't remember, but I've had this huge shift in the last 2 weeks where basically I decided that I wasn't gonna make him do anything he didn't want to do. I wasn't gonna take him I had him signed up for all this cool stuff that I thought. And he told me in advance that he didn't want to go, and then I wondered why he acted like such a butthole while we were there. And then it suddenly dawned on me that he told me before that he didn't want to go, and so now I've been asking him for everything, and half the stuff that I thought was so cool, he doesn't want to go to.
Right. Yeah.
And we don't go to any of it anymore, I just started saying yes to things that I did a Byron Katie thing, which is basically that I said, he doesn't care about what I want, and then I said, I don't care what he wants. And then I said, he doesn't want to do anything that I want to do, and then I said, I don't want to do anything that he wants to do. And it was amazing, just to do the turnaround thing. And so I've been doing whatever he wants to do, and we've been having a great time. And ultimately what I realized is all I really, really want is to be with him in a meaningful way and feel connected and let the love flow through. And I really don't care, but it's my conditioning that says, but we should be at the book group, but we should be at the library instead of the arcade, And so I just decided that I had to start.
I'm the mom and he's the kid, so I should do what I say, and I'm bigger than he is and tougher than he is, and so I can win.
Yeah.
Boy, is that wrong. Now we got a chance.
Yeah, there's a lot of really intense conditioning, and so my writing was forget about all my concepts about what a mom is, forget all my concepts about what a homeschooling mom is, forget about all my concepts about, what I think is, because I have a lot of input about being productive, doing things, not wasting your time, doing things that are enriching and meaningful and not be frivolous and all that stuff. So there's been a lot of letting go with regards to that. And the other big thing I got was how much this concept ties in with the Abraham work, which is about focus only on what you want. Which is the same thing as saying focus on where you're winning and not trying to gain. And then there's something about being in need, which has been talked about by a few people. it's like if I'm in need, I'm inherently a kid, and I'm inherently having a belief in lack, so I'm inherently, of course, outpicturing that.
Guaranteeing your relationship won't work.
Guaranteeing that it won't work. So to the degree that I'm in any kind of need, whether it's about needing to be valued, needing to be appreciated, needing other people to take care of me, whatever the need is, I'm inherently in loss.
Oh, yeah, because if I need you to do something for me, then I can't be who I am, because I got to be who you want me to be, so you can do what I need you to do. It paralyzes the relationship to be needy at all. Denise used to hate me. For years I kept saying, well, you can have a healthy relationship just as soon as you don't need one.
Yeah.
It's like you can stop going to AA meetings when you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Barbara's quote. Any relationship based on need is sick.
Yeah, it's in the relationship handbook. Yeah, that's a good one. And it's obvious why. Nobody can be who they are. If you're needy, you can't be who you are. You can't let them be who they are. You need them to be the way you need them to be. That it? We're going to get done by 8:30 today. See how easy it is? Did you?
I did. Well, I had a number of them, but one thing that's occurring to me as I'm sitting here, one is a resistance behavior in that I allow people to ask me for things late, or even at a time I can't do it, and then I'll go ahead and rescue. And of course I get a feeling of being the needed one, the savior and all that stuff. And what I need to do is start saying no, and putting parameters and valuing myself in that way. I can see that. Another one that's been really interesting is this whole thing about, being ill for a long time. And what I experienced for a long time was a lot of judgment about what that was about for all kinds of reasons. And so I was always responding to that, and often frustrated or angry. And now, that's not my experience, that's what's happening. But I find myself, really watching because I want to be great all the time now. And so, and it's all about being somehow, winning somehow in that relationship that I'm right or good or whatever it is. I don't know that I can articulate it, but I've been aware of it. And somehow being right now, being spiritual, I don't know, whatever, just knowing that. And so I've been really careful to try to be real every day and just be who I am. And what I've really heard tonight has been extremely helpful because I need to just let go of what other people think about all of it. And it's just going to
I'm reminded of the picture of the tombstone in the graveyard that says, "See, I told you I was sick." That would be a loss. that person won. See, I told you I was sick.
And also, just being who I am and letting go of all that stuff. So it's going to be very helpful.
Yeah. Well, I want to do one more thing in this vein of stuff, and you're going to love this one. You're all going to love this one. But first, I want you to think, what does the word sin mean to you? And I don't want to hear your intellects. I mean, we all know that, or maybe we all know, I'll tell us all, the word that's translated in the Bible as sin is the Aramaic word that means to miss the mark. It would be correctly used when an archer shoots an arrow at the bullseye and it doesn't hit the bullseye. That's the word that they used for that situation got translated into through Greek into English as sin, okay? So sin really means to miss the mark, to miss your mark, okay? But we've been conditioned with our Judeo-Christian backgrounds and our mothers and Catholicism and purgatories and hells and everything. So think about what sin really means to you. And I'm talking about down here as a kid. What does a kid really think is sinful? Okay? That's the first question. And the homework is to take a good look and make a list of everything about which you feel sinful, guilty, shamed, or remorseful. Let's get rid of all four of those. Ready to get rid of those? Sin, guilt, shame, and remorse. Take a look at everything that you feel any of those things about, because it's all nonsense, and you can drop it all next Monday night if you want to.
Shame. Sinful, remorseful, shame.
Sin, guilt, shame, and remorse.
How about a question about that?
Sure.
I sponsored someone that, was promiscuous, and I said the only reason you are ashamed of it is because you think it's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being promiscuous. It's your thinking that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not promiscuous because that's my ideal, but I was trying to get what an ideal is.
Mm-hmm.
So, would the sin? I mean, when you say that, would it be my boss or
If he thought that was sinful, then that should be on the list. If he thought being promiscuous was sinful, I want that to be on. If you think that, if you're being promiscuous and you think it's sinful, I want it on the list. Yeah. I mean, it's nonsense. All of these are nonsense. There's actually no reason to be. There's no such thing as sin. There are mistakes. And I mean, no such thing as sin. All caps. There are mistakes. And there's nothing about which we should feel any guilt, shame, or remorse. But how many of you are tiptoeing through your lives, feeling guilty, driven, or controlled by your guilt or your shame, or how many spend hours being remorseful, trying to have a better past? How many of you are trying to have a better past? Being remorseful about it, So that's the fun one for next week. And then we really will stop. I'll think of something good. I mean, after sin, guilt, shame, and remorse, where the hell can you go? I think I'm heading myself into a box now. I don't think there's anywhere we could go. I think you're correct, but I doubt it. Okay?
So we just want to look at areas where we still experience those, or
where there's something in your past or present about which you feel sin, guilt, shame, or remorse. What a list of all the things that you have that feeling about. And if you used to feel guilty about it and you don't now, that's not interesting. I just want to know what's going on in your life. Where are you still tied up in that? Because when you understand how this spiritual universe works, and we'll spend about 5 minutes talking about that, that's as much as it's going to take. When you understand how this spiritual universe works, you will see that there can't possibly be any reason for any of that nonsense. Some of you got a real good head start, like Diane. She's about as guilt-free as you can get. She wasn't. But this is the last one, I'm sure, because there's nowhere to go. Anything else? Okay, let's get quiet for a minute. I just love that. Sin, guilt, shame. That's a nice porous to clean out, huh? Let's get rid of that shit. Okay, cool. Thanks. Love y'all.